You said you read some stories about me in the papers. My reputation has a habit of preceding me. When they don't know you, they put labels on you. Master stock manipulator. America's most successful casino operator in history. Mob's accountant. The feds even leaked a story to the press about me having $300 million squirreled away. If you find out whose attic that's in, please be sure to let me know.
Yeah.
You don't get to keep it, call me, and I'll give you a piece.
Fair enough.
Hello, Magadi, Linjani, Magadi, hello. Today is Wednesday, the 4th of August, 2021, and today's watch list individual is a Pan-Africanist Tycoon Mogul and a Zanu PF Loyalist by the name of Comrade Tagwirei. This is who we are going to be talking about. Kudakwase Tagwirei, is he or is he not Zimbabwe's robber baron in the same likeness as the Rockefellers? Or he's just a simple, steadfast businessman who's a patriot and loves his country? This is who we are talking about today, comrades. His name is Comrade Tagwirei. Now, this Cadre has decided to take it upon himself to do business within Zimbabwe in his homeland. And because he's decided to do that and make money in Zimbabwe at the same time supporting Zanu PF, he has been sanctioned by the global world. So this is why we're going to be talking about Comrade Tagwirei today. He's a player. He's one of those people that if we do not talk about him, something not right. Something not right, comrades. So this is who we're talking about today. Kudakwase Tagwirei, an SDA who's making money make sense in Zimbabwe and at the same time is a proud patriot and a Zimbabwe Zanu PF card-carrying member.
You know something? If one mutual that agreement was cancelled on the day of there was too much noise taking place in the market. It wasn't cancelled. It never took place from then onwards. Something was supposed to be used to raise money for the country for the next 10, 15 years, and they were going to use so-called the agreement. They were never going to disturb anything. No one was going to disturb. Every fuel was going to come. We just tried to use that vehicle in the pipeline for bringing fuel. That was it. But it never took off because that's when all the Trump was writing all the things that they were writing and all the crazy shit that was taking place at that time. So we decided not to do anything about it. That's what happened. Yeah. So that thing never took off. It was never approved by the administration. Never got through the two computers. Our accounts. It was just too noisy and too toxic. And at the same time, my accounts were being frozen. So it doesn't, it was just messy. Even my accounts said that I can't open. Yeah.
So today, we find out whether or not, or we discuss, let's call it a discussion, comrades. Kuti, is this man really a robber baron or a Zimbabwean patriot? When we say robber baron, we're talking about the generation Yana Rockefeller, J.D. Rockefeller, DuPont, the guys, the Tycoon, the Moguls who would state capture a situation and make a lot of money at the behest of the government. This has happened in the United States. It's something new. No, it's not. But before we get into the analysis of whether or not he's a robber baron or a patriot, let's talk about who this man is currently and what he's going to. We're not going to talk about where he was born or what his political inclinations are, because Darawu is a businessman. So we would be doing you a disservice if we talk about akakurira kumusha kupi, akaenda kuchikoro kupi, how he became a politically active member. This guy is about making money. He's a businessman. Any politics always involves business. He's one of them. BMW ingawani during time ya Hitler, they supported Hitler ingawani. Volkswagen they supported Hitler one. So business is business, and today we are talking about business. So right now, Tagwirei was designated by the Executive Order 13469. Again, Executive Order 13469 for having materially assisted, sponsored, or provided financial, material, logistical, or technical support for goods or for services in support of the government of Zimbabwe. On top of that, they say that, they go further to say that besides supporting the government of Zimbabwe, he has been actively supporting senior officials within the government and other persons whose property or interests are blocked by Executive Order 13288, Executive Order 13391, or Executive Order 13469. Right? They go further. US Department of Truth, no, you big dogs, Pablo, the Pablitos and all that. This is what we're talking about. So, we've just mentioned several executive orders that people say that Tagwirei is associated with. That's 13288, 13391, 13469. These all are specific to companies or individuals, and ERE involved in that, according to the United States government. On top of that, they say that Secunda Holdings, which he owns, was designated pursuant to Executive Order 13469. That's the parent executive order, which is directly involving him. Right? So Secunda Holdings was designated by Executive Order 13469 for being owned or controlled by, or having acted or purported to act for or on behalf, directly or indirectly, for Tagwirei. So, if Comrade Tagwirei was a terrorist or Angari Kukembe bin Laden, if let's just presume he was an Islamist or he was in ISIS, no one will not kuurawa in the US government. Why? Because he is known as a financier. Before you look for my soldier background, munotsvaga vanhu vanotenga mabomb acho, vanhu vanobudisa dollar bills kuti zvinhu zvifaye. And in Africa, unfortunately, financiers vakamakwa, and this is one of them. This guy is considered a financier. This is why he is somehow directly attached to most Zimbabwean politicians that are Zanu PF or the Zimbabwe government. Right? So this is who he is. In the global sphere, he's called a financier. So this is what we will term him for this podcast. Again, we are not saying whether or not it's true. We are going by what the United States State Department and OFAC, which is the Office of Financial Fucking People Up in the World, does. OFAC. If you don't know what OFAC stands for, please go just Google that shit up. We'll go deeper into the room and discuss individual here, our comrade. So, Tagwirei was known as a fuel retailer. He was known as a trader. He's been hustling for a while in Zimbabwe. He's emerged as one of the most richest and most influential businessmen here in Zimbabwe, post Mugabe. But during Mugabe's time, post 2013, he was in the game, right? So in the closing years of Robert Mugabe's reign, and just after Emerson Mnangagwa's ascent to the presidency, that's when Tagwirei started rising. Tagwirei's Secunda Holdings received more than 1.6 billion in contracts and procurement deals from Zimbabwe's government. One of the most important entities in Tagwirei's corporate structure is a company called SOTIC. SOTIC International. Let me repeat this again. SOTIC. SOTIC International. A holding company based in Mauritius. Tobo Mirai Pap. Right. Basically, this guy is a big dog. He started from around 2013. That's when he rose. Before President E.D. Mnangagwa came into the reins of power, this man had already been involved. But then it extrapolated greatly after President E.D. Mnangagwa came into power. Tagwirei's wealth is mainly based in Zimbabwe, right? We are going to get into, just scrape into what his company structures are based on what media says. Based on what media says, and then we are going to use that to come up with our own analysis of what's really going on. But Tagwirei's wealth is based in Zimbabwe. he does business in Zimbabwe, and people say that he leverages the government in order to buy and make money within Zimbabwe. So basically, they say he uses RBZ as his own personal piggy bank in order to manipulate foreign currency and make money outside, where he expropriates it and then park it in Malaysia or park it in Switzerland or park it in other countries. This is the ongoing narrative, and we are going to discuss this narrative today because, as we said again, he's a player and he's a revolutionary. But here, the revolutionary star, we call it as it is. Can I reach chokwadi? Can I see we discuss it? It's a Saturday chokwadi. But we want to just tell you what's out there. What is the narrative? Because we cannot start defending somebody. Kana tisina kukudza yekuti zviri kunzi. Ndo kunonzi in politics kana uri pa ground. Tiri kuonesana. Ngatiwonesane kuti ichokwadi here. Ndezvipi ndaapi mazwi ataurwa nezvemurume uyu. And then from there we come up with a narrative of whether or not it's true, or it is the great Satan, the United States, doing their usual shenanigans. So, Tagwirei is known to make his money within Zimbabwe. He's known to buy companies and so forth. They say that Tagwirei has benefited from business partnerships within South Africa. He had one person snitch on him, but some of the South African individuals who are said to help him push his narrative, Varungu vanongo believe this, and Varungu who are said to be associated with a lot of his business dealing are Joseph Bear, spelled B-E-H-R, your last name, B-E-H-R, Joseph Bear. Christopher Fourie, last name F-O-U-R-I-E, Fourie. Ronell Sinclair and Christian Weber. Sinclair spelled S-I-N-C-L-A-I-R, and Christian Weber, W-E-B-E-A-R. So varungu 4 vari kunzanzi ndo vanobatsira kuti things zvifambe win South Africa for Tagwirei. Fourie is a Zimbabwean last name. Banana Fourie vakawana vatinoziva vanogara kuAvondale. So this is definitely a roadie. Now, why we are mentioning Fourie is that Mr. Fourie Varkunzi was the one who ended up snitching and releasing a lot of the information that is being used right now by media organizations. So that's why we are mentioning Mr. Fourie specifically, because he filed a lawsuit, put it on my file, where there are details involving Tagwirei. So that's why we're mentioning his name. So these 4, they are called South Africans, but we don't have evidence to this fact, but we would not be surprised if these individuals have strong Zimbabwean background, as in madzima Rhodesians vakazongowana mapepa ku South Africa. So moving forward with that is that from 2019, these 4 white people helped with Tagwirei and his legal team to have prominent roles in this organization we told you called SOTIC, S-O-I-T-C International. And they master the game of shell games in order to move money around, expropriating it from Zimbabwe. This is all alleged. Atisati tapina ma-analysis yedu panapa ma-comrades. Tichirungotaura zvinhu zviri kunzi alleged. As we said before, Fourie became a whistleblower, right? Akabudisa ma-legal documents nema unwritten agreements aita establish kuti Tagwirei was the boss, right? And you also is said to have released information showing that Tagwirei tried as much as possible to keep his name away from any company registries showing that he was a director or a shareholder. And I sent my different systems, my buyback, my shares, my debentures. This guy was on some state shit. The way this thing was broken down by the Sentry PDF makes it sound like Tagwirei is on some, Moneyball type stuff from the United States. As in, this is on some state shit, but we'll go into that. Right? So, buyback shares, debentures, nominee directorships, kuchinja ma shareholdings, kugadzira ma trusts are based in Mauritius, where they have a trustee who is a protectorate, an RBZ official. These guys did everything. in order to move money around. Apparently, that's what they're saying. And if they did this, before we say it's good or bad, more kudos to them, because, first we have to give kudos to the media organization that uncovered this. Then second, we have to give with Fuka on an international global scale. Unfortunately, so not talk the US government, because as we said, that time you could finance the United States always follows the money first, which is why Zimbabwe has been consistently complaining with these sanctions are very bad for the betterment of Zimbabwe. It makes it appear as if sanctions are targeted against officials when it is not. They are targeted against what actually drives the nation, right? Yes, there may be mistakes, there may be fuck-ups that the government does, but those fuck-ups don't explain the way countries cratering. There must be some extenuating circumstances. Now, besides Sotic, let me say this again, Sotic, S-O-T-I-C, there's another company known as Capital Horizons. Capital Horizons is a Mauritian company service provider and a financial advisory firm that has been alleged to be assisting Tagwirei in setting up structures in Tagwirei. This guy, now if this is again true, it means this guy pays. He's just like any other businessman. He pays good money for good advice, right? So these guys are said to have been helping him set up legal structures that are global in nature in order to avoid the United States Department of Treasury and the United States State Department, as well as gaming the Zimbabwean system and benefiting Zanu PF. Not government, but Zanu PF. This is what they are claiming. It also goes further to say that Tagwirei has utilized his relationship with high-level Zimbabwean officials to gain state contracts, received favored access to hard currency, including US dollars. So, just from what I've said, by now, if you don't know who this man is, you should automatically presume that he was targeted for sanctions. And yes, this man was targeted for sanctions. He's under sanctions. As from August 2020, he has been under US sanctions, right? Sotic, is involved in mining, right? And it was also targeted from 2020. And then it is said to have moved its mining assets away from the parent company to a lesser known company called Kuvimba Mining House. Kuvimba Mining House has been mentioned before by Finance Minister Mutuli, as well as having another Murungu who runs as the CEO of Kuvimba, which is, his name is David Brown. And now we mention about the first 4 South Africans. That means David Brown, we are based in Zimbabwe. And he and the CEO of Kuvimba Mining House. So, David Brown and the Minister Mutuli claims that the government of Zimbabwe owns 65% of Kuvimba's shares, while the remaining 35% were held by Ziwa Investments, and then the residual was owned by a Zimbabwe subsidiary of a Mauritius-based company called Chorus. Now, Ziwa E is where you see Tagwirei's name come up as a director. Toda ungoti mungoona kuti shell game yacho inofamba sei iri kutaurwa ne Sentry. This is based on the PDF and the report that was done by a media organization called the Sentry. So all these guys are not David Brown, Minister Mtulisi Ngube. They all claim that they are not involved with Tagwirei in structures zisanogadzirwa, but they mention him in passing with Bossman, and so forth. Right? Company records of Kuvimba Mining House are not available in Zimbabwe. Right? Ziwa Investment does not appear to exist. However, there is a company called Ziwa Resources. Right? Ziwa Resources yaga registered by lawyers at Tagwirei. Right? And in those registries, David Brown and then another guy known as Simbarashi Chinyemba are both mentioned to be directors, right? Associated. And these guys are known to be associated with Tagwirei. Now, we go further. Again, this is all allegedly, comrades. But this guy sounds like a big dog so far. There's another company, this time is a fund, the Almas Global Opportunity Fund. Yarambogo Shandiswa na Tagwirei to invest in Sotic International via the Cayman Islands, right? Alma's Global Opportunity Fund is said to have 65% shares in Ziwa Resources. Ziwa Resources ndio yanataura kuti ina Simba Rashe Chinyemba and David Brown as directors, right? And it has this one owns the Alma's Global Opportunity Fund, which owns 65%, but it also owns it also invested in Sotic International that ended up being put under sanctions through Sakunda. If again, allegedly, all of this is alleged, right? Within that same structure, there is another company that is got 35% owned by Zimbabwean, and this is called Fimbi Resources. In Fimbi Resources is where you find Tagwirei and his wife. So imagine you create a company, basically all these numbers that I just throw at you, Comrade. The Sentry is basically claiming that pagadzirwa company inonzi Kuvimba Mining House. Mukuvimba Mining House, mashares kupatsanura kuriitwa mashares aya. Basically, vice director is in the CEO David Brown account wa Simba Rashe Chinyemba, who we are presuming is a lawyer account wa ipapo, right? And then company yaisa mari in Sotic International also has shares, right, in that one. Then there's another smaller company on the Fimbi Resources. Panozobuda zitara Tagwirei and his wife, right? But basically he owns the whole company. It's just that he divided his shares along several different ways, just in case mwene wanya kavarwa pane other mwenes mwena dzakavhurika. This is the way it's been structured. Very smart, but catchable if the United States is tricking your every move. So this is who Tagwirei's empire was as of 2020. If you go back from 2016, he was the sole owner of Sakunda Holdings. He won a 630 million contract to build an emergency diesel generating plant at Dema. This forensic audit was done where it was found that 2016, the Office of the President had interfered with the procurement process in order that Sakunda would actually get that contract. This is 2016. President's office, right? Also in 2016, same company, Sakunda, had an oil trading company that was appointed without any tendering process to run Command Agriculture. This is the one Garaichi Popotero and BT. Command Agriculture, where a $1 billion project to purchase fertilizer and grain inputs for commercial farmers from 2016 to 2019. This is again Sakunda Holdings that is alleged to have done this. Now, in June of 2020, 6 months after Landela Mining Ventures was bought by Freda Rebecca Gold Mine. Gentlemen, my companies are somehow involved in Mdara. His name is Tagwirei, but in other circles, according to the Tsanengamus and the Matutu, is also known as Queen Bee, right? This mining company, known as the Freda Rebecca Gold Mine, obtained a buying permit from the government gold buying monopoly, right? This permit allowed that company, Freda Rebecca Gold Mine, an industrial to purchase gold from artisanal miners and to basically spin. It was basically another way of just spinning money. Now, we can go on and on, comrades. In this report, if you do not have the report for Sentry, please inbox us. We'll send you a link where you can download it and you can read for yourself. This man is known from several companies, and the US State Department has listed his companies to a T. Like, as we read this report, we had Takutata Private Limited, East Africa Supply Private Limited, Trading Private Limited, Suzako Investments Private Limited, African Connection Logistics, South Africa Private Limited, ACL Bulk Packaging Solutions, Red Fox Management, Sotic South Africa, Balisite Investments, Bill Heights Investment, Bionest Investments, Landela Investments, Landela Mining Ventures, Landela Infrastructure, Secunda Holdings, Caladrius Investments, Sotic International, based in Mauritius. Yeah. Munhu ari kutsvagwa. I won't lie to you. They found his financial advisors, who are, for example, Capital Horizons. They're a financial service provider, and they are the ones who've been helping formalize my due structures, my company frameworks. Besides that, they've connected with his Abu Dhabi or his Arab connections. We have Shan Kondomal, who is the head of Capital Horizons, who's been involved in this. They go so deep as to claim that Tagwirei tried to buy CBZ with his connections from Capital Horizons. His Zuma funds, as we mentioned before, Alma's Global Opportunity Fund, has been there. They've created complicated structures in which Sotic International would issue like maybe 9,000 debenture shares to Alma's Global Opportunity Fund, SPC, and then they would also issue to a Cayman Islands fund, right? After that, they would buy that back. I don't know how they did it because we're not that financially literate. We will have to actually get a secondary podcast on a Sunday, quite a Wednesday, where we break down how did these guys hustle the financial world? Because this was global stuff that they were doing, right? They would find deed of assignments that would allow them to send money to Almas for the range of 8.4 million and above, right? And then convertible debentures would be used as a form of debt that could be converted back into shares so that they could spend that money. Hey, my comrade, this is smart methodology that's been explained by now. So, Capital Horizons is mentioned as the brain trust behind how Tagwirei would move around his money on a global scale. So here we are going to stay for a second. Before we stay there, we say that Sotic has grown and grown. We have Sotic Trading Limited, which is now got a United Arab Emirates presence. It's also based in Singapore. It's based in Mauritius, it's based in Zimbabwe, and it's based in South Africa. We also have Landela Energy and Landela Infrastructure. Right, let's talk about our comrade here. First and foremost, is this fair and corrupt? The jury is still out, comrades. Why are we saying the jury is still out? We have certain cadres within Zanu PF who've attacked Tagwirei and said that Tagwirei is stealing money, he's controlling the political structure of Zimbabwe, and he controls Vachiwenga and E.D. Mnangagwa. Do we have evidence to that? We don't. Matutu, who was one of the executives in the Youth League structure, was actually censured by the Zanu PF Politburo when they said that. So, is he corrupt? I'm not sure, but what we can tell you right now is that within Zanu PF, there have been murmurings from within the Zanu PF camp that think that Tagwirei is corrupt and he has state capture. They liken him to a Gupta. Now, here's where we look at this. We really don't like money when it comes to the betterment of it. Money always corrupts anything that has to do with any revolutionary progress. However, collateral and money is an essential aspect of being a revolutionary. So we are going to get into the dirty side of money. Let's call a spade, my comrade. Zimbabwe right now is under sanctions. The government cannot actually generate and produce their own type of money properly. It doesn't even make sense having a sovereign wealth fund, is what Comrade Mtulisi Ngube is saying. Sanctions. So if you find a businessman who is willing to ride or die for a political party that is considered globally a pariah, comrades, you can't blame him for that. There are very few business people who can openly want to deal with Zanu PF and be put on sanctions. This guy has information about him that is found in my archives, United States Senate Library. He has an executive order that has been signed by a president of the United States of America. Which businessman do you know would want those type of risks when it makes money? This guy is not a politician. First and foremost, he's a businessman. And he's now a businessman. He is actually a business. He's no longer just a businessman. He is Tagwirei is business. It's already a business. Why are we saying this? We're saying this that it takes a lot of balls. Whether or not he's stealing money, we haven't got into that part. But it takes a lot of balls for you to actually deal with Zanu PF openly. Because utakana pa sanctions, which he has been done. The minute you deal with the government. So, how much money can you steal when you know you're under sanctions? Yes. You know what? We don't have a Lamborghini here, the revolutionary style. We've never had a Ferrari. But the few goods that we had, the first time when I bought an iPhone, for maybe about 6 months. Right? But after that, it was back to normal. Right? I got into the flow of an iPhone, but I didn't need another iPhone. If I lost my iPhone, I would have gone back to a Samsung Android. But now it's okay. Why are we using this as an example? This man is already rich. Before he was on sanctions 2016 time Mugabe, he was already rich. There's a part where you have to actually admit that this guy is a patriot. Because he was put on sanctions. Once you're on sanctions, you die on sanctions. Braden Camp died whilst on sanctions. His companies were only released from sanctions after he died. Now, let me tell you something about sanctions, comrades. It doesn't only affect the businessman. It affects his family. It affects his relatives. Right? And intelligence here, the United States State Department is so thorough that cousin of a cousin can actually be denied a visa. Does that say he's not a thief? No, we never said that. We're just talking about the mentality of a person. Why would you not support the government quietly then? Away from the public limelight where nobody's. And here's the funny thing. He's never been a guy who likes the public limelight. So who blew up his name? How all of a sudden are we now aware of who Tagwirei is in the first place? Ask yourselves that, comrades. Sanguda has been in Zimbabwe for years during time ya Mugabe. Years. We came here back in Zimbabwe around 2013, Sakunda was there. And he had been in fuel for a while. Iton's big data. Why all of a sudden in 2019, 2020, he's now the next big colossus that we need to take down? The Midas of Zanu PF. Why? Who is creating this narrative that we're listening to right now? This is not saying whether or not he's guilty. We're not saying he stole money. We're not saying he didn't steal money. But we need to ask, aputitsa mafaira yokuti mudhara uyu ane big inarubatsira Zanu PF ndiani? First and foremost, let's do that. Now let's look at the things he's done. He's been funding government programs. The government on its own cannot fund these programs because they cannot actually expropriate or raise capital foreign. Vari yega. Government of Zimbabwe haikwanisa kureza foreign capital yega outside the country. They need help. If you don't know this, you're not a business person. Zimbabwean government cannot raise that. That's why a businessman or an investor right now, that's why when you complain kuti China anongoya ku Zimbabwe vachitora mari, German anongoya muno vachitora mari, Russian anongoya, because they are raising capital in US dollars outside Zimbabwe and coming back into the country. The only argument which we support diasporans is kuonerwa pasi kwavanoitwa nema civil servants. Iyo vari maZimbabweans aruya ne-US dollar. Yes, you will give it to diasporans kuti muri correct. Amufane kuonerwa pasi ne-government yenyu kana madzoka muno muZimbabwe muchida kuita investing in your country. And we know civil servants look down upon diasporans. It's a Zimbabwean thing. It's something that we need to talk about as a podcast. But our point right now is not about that. Our point is that the government needs help raising reserves and US foreign currency in order to service their own debt. They can't do it on their own because they can't get loans on the global market. So if you have a business person such as Tagwirei who's able to help you do that and fund government projects, I see. Call him Queen Bee as much as you want, but that's as patriotic as you can get, Comrade. Look at the things that this man has been attacked for. Energy projects, agricultural projects, mabaza bakuya manje mno Zimbabwe. All these are government projects that are on a public scale. Now, again, Google this. Don't listen to Anna Hopo, Google this. Most public projects run a loss. Most public projects run a loss. Just Google and see how public services are financed by first world countries. A subway, for example, usually is making losses. A bus system, maybe one or two riding a route back and forth. It's a loss, but it's an incurred cost and a loss leader. It was accounted for per budget in any first world country. So if you find a businessman who's willing to finance losing projects, such as Mabaze Zupko, come on, Comrade. Come on. And he's still a businessman, he has to make his cut. Now, if you were to argue here and say, instead of making 100% profit or 50% profit, Tagwirei is a 500% profit, is raping the country. Tomboti. But at Sataona figures, why? Hopewell has brought some figures, but we are still breaking those down. We're going to have an actual subsequent podcast dedicated on numbers. We are going to bring an accountant so that we don't give you false information. But for now, we're dealing with Tagwirei, the Queen Bee, as you call it. Why is he not liked in Zanu PF as well? Money brings influence. And with influence, you get political clout. Because you have that political capital that any other politician may not have, which is money. That's why most of the times you see a politician is a prostitute to a businessman, if you did not know, Comrade. No, the real pimp is the businessman and the politician is the prostitute. But usually you see the prostitute no. Why are we trying to say this? Zanu PF is broke. Just like MDC. MDC is broke, Zanu PF is broke. RTGS, both these political parties, they don't have money. Just if they are being funded by the government, it doesn't. Why am I saying this? I'm not trying to denigrate these parties, but I'm trying to say that if you have patriots within your individual parties who are willing to fund you as a party, you are only stronger. The problem is that internally, and for him, Tagwirei, within Zanu PF, there are people within Zanu PF who don't like him. You saw the way that Senengamus came at him. You also saw the way that, Matutuz came at him. But let's go deeper into that. Another reason this man is not like this because he deals within Zanu PF. Anna Rottenberg, Anna Bredenken. Within Zanu PF, these are other people who are still associated with the Rhodesian era. And Tagwirei is associated with that clique as well. So, bad vibes just come with him when it comes to that. Again, we have not yet gone into the details of whether or not he stole money or he's corrupt or state capture. We haven't done that. We're still trying to create the environment in which he is being called Queen Bee. You can't just be called Queen Bee from nowhere, my comrade. You can't. Zapu, Zipra, Zanu, Zanla. Did you know what Zapu during the war? When I drive my Land Rover. My Land Rover no dura my old school I no drive when I Queen Elizabeth. Zapu had those during the war. Who was funding that? Zanu PF had vehicles during the war. Who was funding that? Zanu PF was stocked with artillery guns and so forth. ZAPU had caches of weapons hidden across Zimbabwe. Ndokuzotanga betting yegukura hunde because panga pane caches angachinza akawandiswa neZAPU. Right? Who was funding all of this? Diana ifanda. Kunzi gorilla zvinoreva kuti pane munhu atenga uniform akatenga indoctrination material, pane munhu ari kusupply radio kuti Webster Shamu ataure zvaari kutaura, and there's somebody providing the weaponry. This is what is not liked by the United States and global world, because financiers vanonetsa, vanogara vanzi vanonetsa nokuti money is on a capitalist basis. So if you are dealing on a capitalist basis, it's difficult. The United States traces this money. That's why people like the Tagwireis hard hit more than anybody else. I would not be surprised that President E.D. Mnangagwa could be removed on sanctions before Tagwirei, because Tagwirei actually is considered the money man within Zanu PF. So, that being said, did he take money? Did he steal money? We don't have the figures, we don't have the numbers. Is it possible that he may have cut corners? Yes, it's very possible, and we would not be surprised. He's a businessman. We are revolutionaries and we are communist by nature. We don't believe in the capitalist system, and he's out to make a profit. So I would be very shocked if he has been ethical 100% in all his business dealings. Very, very surprised. But does that make him not a patriot? Of course not. He's as patriotic as he gets. He's funded his party, which is Zanu PF. He's actually helped pay for salaries, helped buy cars and transportation, things that were not being done. There are things a political party will not tell you. Itaka broker. The way journalists in Zimbabwe make it sound as if Zanu PF is given money directly from the Zimbabwean budget and it is deposited in their bank accounts. That's a lie. If you ask any district chairman within Zanu PF, they use their own money just for simple things like some photocopies or sell sheet. And imagine if a district chair or a branch chair is doing that. A person like Tagwirei who tries to make sure that my MPs about my constituents. Why? Because it helps his business interest. MDC has business people just like Tagwirei, but they are not given the same type of limelight as Tagwirei is given. Why? Because he's Zanu PF. Did he steal money? Let's go into this one. Let's look at the numbers. Most of these things that are being said went through a tender process. Procurement, and people ended up using the word the president's office influenced the final decision. Comrade. Saka ngatipiwe kama minutes acho tender process, because ndokwayashika nyaya yacho ya tender process. Chitipai kama minutes acho tender process, because kana makuti akawina ku tender process or he lost. If he lost the tender process and then the president's office stepped in, yeah, maybe you have a point. But we have not seen those minutes. We don't know if it's true or not. Alright, fine. Let's say it actually went down that way as you claim it did, and he won the tender process. Right? He still provided it. As much as you hate Command Agriculture, it actually has been making a lot of strides. Command Agriculture Varungu have been coming back into Zimbabwe. Let me tell you something, Cadres. Magada kungoramba muchingoti to hell with Zimbabwe. Varungu varikudzoka. They've realized whether or not I own the land, I can still rent the land and do the exact same thing that my parents were doing. And they've now expanded. Into other things. Service industry, yes, agriculture is owned by Varungu Rhodesians. Imuchiramba mchiko popo watacheti Zanu PF must go, Zanu PF must go. And then most of the time Zanu PF kana aushana nemurungu. Imuchiko Zanu PF must go. House State is owned by a syndicate Varungu. Service industry yes and electro sales vesa kama connections from Zimbabwe to South Africa aringori maboa nema Africana nema British. But it's business. You can't blame them for that. You can't be xenophobic against varungu varikuita zvinhu zvavo. Varikudzoka chinyararire vachiita business ati imuchikoti Tagwirei must go. Tagwirei arikurova big. Which other business people are actually willing to stand up and not get under sanctions by Zimbabwe? Tell us. Is he perfect? No, hapana mkomrade ari perfect. We are in Zanu PF. There's no such thing as a perfect cadre. But he's a patriot. That is a patriot. Through and through. Because US don't play, son. They don't play. Once an executive order comes, that's like a kill list. That's what Obama used to do when you put a kill list. An executive order is just another way of assassination, but it's on an economical type. This guy is on an economic assassination list. So if you are willing to stand on your thing, that's a real G. If we're in the States, they say that's a real G right there. You might not agree with what he stands for. You might think he's an asshole, but that's a real nigga. So, let's stop that and now go deeper. Hate him or love him, he's a player. Yeah, the revolutionist. We're not trying to defend Tagwirei. We don't even know him. We know his business. We know his wife. We know he's a guy who's a business person. The stuff he's done, the way he's been able to manipulate global markets, and he knows how to build a team. He's got businesses all across the globe. Singapore, Mauritius, United Arab Emirates. If he had an opportunity to be in the United States, this guy would be making a lot of money. So, he's a hustler. He's a Jay-Z. You can hate him as much as you want, but this guy has already proven that he's in the same box as Strive Masio. So, take that away from him. Fine. Where are we going with this man? He's already got heat. People like him don't last long because they are financiers. Financiers create enemies. Either he supplies you or he doesn't supply you. So, Tagwirei already knows within his own party he's not liked. But this is the game that he chose. Never mistake that these people do not know the game that they've chose. When we hear the revolutionaries start talking to you, it's not because we're trying to get you to like him or hate him. We're trying to get you to understand him as an individual. Next time you hear a headline in the newspaper, Tagwirei doesn't care about us. He already knows. He already knows where, if he was to get into an accident, he has his own problems. What here the revolutionaries that we're doing on Watchlist is for you to understand who the man is, how he moves, how he operates. When you hear an article, what does it mean? Who is his team? Anachinye mandiana na maloya ake ndiani. Arufamba sei. Ma deals achari kuita se Mauritius ma tax haven ekumnana Mauritius anofamba sei. This is why we have created the Watchlist, so that you get to know how these people make their moves. Vari kudzidzisana sei. It's happening both on the Zanu PF and the MDC side. If he stole the money, don't just say, Tagwirei imbava. Comrade, my comrades, we are too smart for that. Tender process, tender process. According to all the newspaper things, yes, he went through the tender process. They are saying that it was influenced by the president's office. So if that's true, and you're a journalist or just a layman on the street, she producer Zimbabwe Independent Daily News. Tender process. You can actually requisition that from the IPA, is in request that information to be made public, so that you can see what were the minutes per tender process. Yes, Akunda. After that, it was now whether or not president's office influenced it. This was 2016 when the tender process yes Akunda Yedema was done. So time I'm Gabe. But Mdarawe had been in the game way before that. He's being attached to Idim Nangago, but he had been in the game for years. Because he is a Zanu PF member. Just like MDC has business people as well. Are they perfect? No, there's no such thing as a perfect businessman, comrades. Amana comrade, makatanga kuona makudakuisa black and white kungi ma businessmen vanhu vechurch. Muri wrong. Business haina church, haina morality. It's about making money, profit and loss. That's it, and catering to your shareholders. So the only thing you can actually argue with Tagwirei is how much of a margin did he make? Was it raping the Zimbabwean government and the Zimbabwean people instead of him having some type of ethical responsibility to Zimbabwe, whereby he made a profit of 100%, he decided to make 500%? Yes, now we are having an argument, my comrade. But he's working with a government that has got no choice. Government didn't have my business people who are willing to take the heat that comes with dealing with Zanu PF and government. Because automatically, iwewe ne hama dzako hamuchaende ku US, kana ku Canada, kana ku UK. Zokumanya. Especially US, visa haribudi. Saka kana wanga uchida kuti mwana wakaenda ku Harvard, kangano. Akuchenda ku Makerere, kana ku somewhere else, ku UAE, or ku Malaysia or Singapore. Those are the risks that these people think about. Yes, they are not the bread and butter things that you deal with, but everybody has their own type of risk. MDC has got different things. MDC, do you think an MDC businessman has problems with a visa? Visa, don't know what I papa if an MDC businessman who supports MDC. You know what I papa? When I was staying at Harvard, I took a chapter ye MDC go achibatiro achitopuwa agent we kunana Biden. It is what it is. We're not trying to hate on Biden or hate on MDC. That's the game. People have picked their sides and this is the game that we are playing. Right? However, don't look at things just from here. Baka visa this Queen B, because right now there's this narrative that would beside Queen B and then things. How stupid are you that you think if you get rid of Tagwirei, things will automatically go back to normal? The government is still going to have to try and raise this money somehow under sanctions. This happened time under Ian Smith. And Ian Smith had the same problems when they were under sanctions during UDI. We have a history dating back to 1965 of how to maneuver within sanctions. Ask pertinent questions that get you the answers that make you see 5 years ahead from where you are right now. How is Tagwirei influencing Zimbabwe 5 years from now with where he is now? That is what you need to be asking. Is he a thief? Yes. If he is a thief, show us. What are the numbers? Let's look at the numbers. But what is the overall overlay of those numbers with what is actually brought in? Which other businessman here in Zimbabwe do you know has helped agriculture industry, has helped the energy industry, and has helped the public infrastructure industry? During COVID, guess who was there live and direct helping into the health industry? Again, Tagwirei. I've just mentioned 4 pillars in Zimbabwe that he has been somehow involved in. Why? Because he had a capability of what? Raising money. He's a bundler. He's a raiser of money. The United States when they were going after Bin Laden. They were going after the money guys first. There's a reason why they went after the money guys first. So, before you are quick to dismiss this man, understand the system, comrades. Understand the system. Perfect. We are going to talk deep into the numbers of Zimbabwe when we do our Sunday podcast. But, Comrade Tagwirei is a player. He's not liked globally. He's not even liked within his own party, Zanu PF. And any person who is a money guy knows this. That fact. Simple and clear. Fact. So all you can do is mitigate the risks that are heading towards you. This man is very much aware of that. Very much. He chooses his people. He's been quiet for all these years, even up to now where he's now under sanctions. The man is still quiet. Why? He's not a politician, he's a businessman. And there are many businessmen like him who support Zanu PF. Let me clarify that. Vaka a businessman who supports Zanu PF. But he actually stepped into the limelight and is willing to actually claim it and put it on his chest that I'm Zanu. I'm the one who's actually going to buy these trucks for Zanu PF. Don't think the MDC doesn't have business people like that. Mafama is Itra MDC. Don't put your emotions in this argument. Let's have a conversation, comrades. But on a watch list for today, on Wednesday, yes, this man is a watch list and he is a player. He is probably going to get knocked off because financiers have a very short half-life. If he has not yet found his exit strategy, Comrade Tagwirei, Chagai exit strategy, Comrade. Nokoti vanhu vari kukutsvagai. Chagai exit strategy. However, Financiers have always had a short half-life. But their roles will always be replaced by somebody else because there is nothing in the world that doesn't get done if you don't have finance. Which is why the United States government always goes after the money first. But so you don't have a time. Remember that. Remember that. So here we are. This is Comrade Super Cabral. Today we are talking about another player in Zimbabwe. Comrade Tagwirei. Observe him. Find his team. His lawyers. These Arab-speaking names that you find, just remember them. You never know when you hear this name again. My business links. Who we are here highlighting on Watchlist, they are leaders. They create frameworks around them for them to be successful. We want you to understand the framework. Who are they? Because my protege are for the future. This is an ongoing thing. It will be there the long after we are dead. But the ideology and the values never change. This has been Comrade Super Cabral, coming from Harare to your global world, wherever you are. Roger out.